Hello students, welcome to weeks 13 and 14 of the fall 2025 semester. In this short lecture, I am going to briefly go over the assignment instructions for our internal controls group project. Okay, now this assignment is worth 150 points. Now, if after you review all of the assignment instructions in detail, you have any questions, you or your group has any questions, please feel free to contact me so I can clarify your concerns and you can proceed to working on the group project. This is a 2-week project. You're going to have the entire week 13 and week 14. Just make a note that on week 14 we have the Thanksgiving holiday. So I would encourage that you get most of your work done prior to the holiday. That way you are not working on this assignment during your Thanksgiving break. Okay, so try to get it as soon as possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to Blackboard where we are going to be reviewing the information that I'm providing. Remember, this assignment is worth 15% of your overall grade. It is in a group format. You have to work with others in your classes. So we need to learn how to work with groups. So it is very important that we organize our time, that we establish communication with our group members immediately, and that we establish internal group deadlines. That way we are not scrambling on the last minute. Okay, we are all adults and we need to be responsible for our share of our work. We need to make sure that the work that we submit is quality work because this will be graded as a group basis, not on an individual basis. So if your part is amazing and awesome, but your group members is not very good quality, that is going to affect the overall grade. So as a group, you need to come together, make time to sit together and review the entire presentation, provide constructive feedback, make corrections before you submit the final work. Okay, so let's jump over to Blackboard. You're going to go ahead and locate my class. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to scroll down to weeks 13 and 14, and that is where you're going to locate all of the information that you need. Okay. Now the starting point for your research is going to be Chapter 7, Internal Controls. Okay, that is from your textbook. Now, there is not a lot of information in the textbook pertaining to internal controls. That's the reason for the research project. You're going to have to go outside of the textbook and utilize online resources. Just make sure that they are credible resources to finish up and complete the research project. Okay, so let's look over the assignment instructions so we can see what we are going to be doing. Okay, so we've got the group project requirements. Let me download it so it can be a little bit bigger. Here we go. So the group project has to do with internal controls. To start off with, part of the project is to learn to work in groups. Yes, this is an accounting class, but I also want to expose students to having to work with others. While we're working in industry, you're going to be put in groups. You're going to be working with other individuals that you like or dislike. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have to get the work done. Okay, and this project is going to help you learn how to get that done. You know, some of you are going to take leadership roles, others are going to, take some instruction, work on the group project, whatever the case might be. So, it is a learning environment to where we're going to be able to apply. Just like if you were completing a project in the workforce, that's what you're going to be doing in my class. Okay, students need to establish communication with their designated groups immediately, pronto, quick. Okay, you need to be able to set up communication and identify how are we going to communicate moving forward. Is it going to be through Pronto? Is it going to be through WhatsApp? Is it going to be through email? Is it going to be through text message? It don't matter to me. You as a group need to decide how are we going to communicate moving forward. Okay? Clear deadlines need to be established within the group and identify the best approach to maintain the communication. Okay. A date needs to be specified for which if a group member does not respond, they are excluded from participating in the assignment. Okay. We are all adults. I understand most of us work, but you do need to log it into Blackboard daily. Okay, that is our responsibility, just to make sure that we check our emails, if anything has been posted, any announcements, so on and so forth. If your group members are trying to reach out to you, be courteous and respond as soon as possible. That is why I ask that all of the groups establish a deadline. If a group member does not respond by that deadline, they're going to get kicked out of the team. okay? And that is okay with me. All you have to do is have the group leader, whoever it is, email me and tell me, Mickey Mouse was excluded from our group because they have not responded. We have sent out 4 emails and no response has been received, and we need to move on with the project. If your group kicks you out because you failed to communicate in a timely manner with them, your grade will automatically be a 0. I will not allow you to do the project by yourself. Part of the responsibility of working in a group is to communicate timely. So please make sure that you do that, okay? So if a group member does not respond, you let me know how many attempts you made to reach that group member, the dates, and that they did not respond. Copy the group member that is going to be excluded. That way they are aware that they are no longer in your group, okay? Only the group members that actively collaborate and contribute to the project are going to earn the assignment points, okay? If a group member is excluded due to lack of participation or communication, you have to notify me as well as the student that is being removed from the group and the reason why they are being excluded from the group. I prefer this communication to be via Blackboard messages, okay? We are all adults and should take group deadlines seriously. Okay, we should have behave cordially and respect each other at all times. Okay, I don't want any fighting amongst group members. It has happened before. Okay, we're adults. We need to learn how to communicate with each other and come up with a solution. Okay, once the final project is compiled, it is vital, important that as a group you establish a meeting time to go over the final presentation and to ensure that all the assignment requirements are met. The group project is graded based on a group effort, not an individual member participation. And I've had in the past students come up to me and say, Miss, I worked on slides 3, 4, and 5 and my slides were awesome. And I answer, yes, they were. But what happened to the rest of the presentation? Okay, it was mediocre. It didn't have any relevant information. There was no sources cited. There was no pictures. There was no diagrams. There was no statistics. Okay. So yes, your 3 slides might be wonderful, but the rest of the presentation is not to par to your 3 slides. So that is why it's important that as a group you review it, provide constructive feedback, and make the necessary revisions before you submit it for grading. Okay? This is a group project. Working alone is not an option. And I've had students all the time ask, Miss, it's because I work and I want to work on it alone. Working alone is not an option. You need to find the time to work on the group project, okay? Please organize your time accordingly and ensure you maintain constant communication with your group members and meet all established deadlines. If you are removed from the group due to lack of communication, remember you are going to get a 0 for the assignment and it is worth 15% of your overall grade, okay? What are we going to be doing in this group project? We're going to be creating a PowerPoint presentation that is going to allow us to practice doing presentations as well as working together in groups to conduct research and prepare a final comprehensive project. Okay? The PowerPoint presentation is going to be prepared in which all members of the assigned group must participate in researching, preparing, and presenting and recording the presentation. Okay? Now, I've had situations where students prepare a presentation and only one student does the audio component. That is not acceptable. Okay, all students should work on a couple of slides and all students should participate in the delivery or the audio component of the slides. So if you worked on 2, 3 slides, I should hear audio from you on those 2, 3 slides. Okay, you are the expert on that area. So everybody needs to participate in researching and delivering the presentation. The PowerPoint presentation needs to be between 13 to 15 slides of content. That excludes the cover page and the reference page. This should be actual information about the research, 13 to 15 slides. Notes need to be included in each of the slides that elaborate on the slide's content. On the actual slide, you're only going to have key points and phrases about the information you're presenting. The detail is provided in the notes. Okay, the notes need to have or be between 150 to 250 words per slide. Okay? Failure to satisfy the requirement obviously will result in lost points. The slide's content should include key phrases, points, or information, and your notes sections should supplement the information that needs to be explained for each slide. Do not, and I repeat, do not overload your slide with information and simply paste it into the notes. That is not acceptable. The information on the slide needs to be different than the presentation on the notes, okay? Your notes should elaborate or supplement the information you are presenting verbally within the actual slide. Please make sure that you cite your sources within the notes section of each slide as well within each of the slides, okay? All group members need to actively participate in the research, preparing the presentation, and delivering the presentation. For my online classes, the presentation needs to have audio. Each slide needs to have audio where you are going to be explaining whatever it is that you're covering on that specific slide. If it's a traditional course, then the presentation is done face to face, so we wouldn't have any issues there. Okay, but if the presentation is online, make sure that when you are getting ready to present your slides, you introduce yourself. That way I know who is speaking. Okay. Also, on the notes for each of the slides, make sure that you put your name. Okay. That way I know that Mickey Mouse did slides 1, 2, 3. Donald Duck did slides 4, 5, and 6, so on and so forth. Make sure that the name of the person that worked on each of the slides is included in the notes of the slides. Okay. Let me see. A title slide needs to be included, which includes the names of all of the group members that participated. Only if they participated should the student be included in the title slide. The title slide also needs to include audio in which the group members are acknowledged and the title of the presentation is provided. A reference page must also be included and the sources need to be organized in alphabetical order. In-text citations within the slides and notes section of the PowerPoint must be included for any information obtained from any sources. Plagiarism will not be tolerated. Please ensure to cite your sources accordingly. Okay? Make sure that you paraphrase, and even though you paraphrase, you need to include the citation. Make sure that the sources that you are using are credible sources. We are going to be utilizing APA format for our research. Okay, please make the presentation as dynamic as possible. Include statistics, graphs, charts, and images. And last but not least, the use of artificial intelligence is prohibited. Okay, you can use AI kind of like to locate sources maybe, but the actual research and the writing needs to be done by you. Now, what are we going to be researching? Okay, the PowerPoint presentation needs to include the below components. Okay, letter A, you are going to define and explain the concept of internal controls in a business. Requirement B, we're going to explain the effects or the impact of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, has on the reporting of internal controls for businesses. Letter C, you're going to explain in detail the 5 key components of internal control. Those are your control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication system, and the monitoring processes. You're going to explain in detail the importance of effective internal control procedures in a business. For cash, this includes receipts and payments. For inventory, for receivables and payables. And last but not least, you're going to identify at least 3 examples of internal control procedures for cash, inventory, receivables, and payables. Okay, the group project is worth 150 points. That's 15% of your overall grade. Okay, I will be providing you with the group distribution list to inform the students of the group members they will be working with for the project. Now, I usually like to hold off till maybe the beginning of week 13 for this. That way, if any of the students drop, they're not placed into groups and then we have to reconfigure the group distribution. Okay, the last day to withdraw is November the 14th. I will be putting students into groups after that date. That way the students that remain in the class, I know that will not be dropped and will be participating in the group project. Okay, so in addition to completing the project, students need to complete a self and peer evaluation. That way I find out if everybody participated, and that is the opportunity for you to explain anything that you liked or disliked about working with your specific group, or what would you change about it. Okay, this is where you provide me with feedback. Okay, so each group member must also complete a self and peer evaluation to obtain the project points. If you don't submit your self and peer evaluation, you are going to get a 0 on the assignment. I need for all of the students to complete the self and peer evaluation. Okay. I will use the self and peer evaluation to identify and assess each member's role and participation in the project to assign the respective grades. Please make sure that you keep all of your group members' correspondence in case a student disputes their involvement in the project. We can go ahead and review the data, the different information, and make a decision. I highly encourage students to utilize Blackboard messages or Pronto to communicate with each other. Students are going to have the entire week 13 and 14 to complete the project. Each team needs to designate one team leader who is going to be responsible for submitting the final presentation. Only one submission per team will be accepted. Okay. So that is the assignment instructions. Okay. So they're all there, so you can review for your understanding. Okay. Now let's go over the grading rubric. How am I going to grade this? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so the group is worth 15%. Okay, so the slide count is worth 5 points. The notes section is worth 15 points. The audio component is worth 10 points. Okay, the title slide is worth 3 points. The reference page is worth 6 points. Make sure that your presentation is dynamic. That's 5 points. And then you have your research requirements. You're going to, whoever does this section, they're going to define and explain the concept of internal controls in a business. Letter B, they're going to explain the effects, impact of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, has on reporting internal controls for businesses. Letter C, you're going to explain in detail the key 5 components of internal control. Okay, which is control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication system, and the monitoring processes. Last but not least, we're going to explain in detail the importance of effective internal control procedures in a business for, okay? So what do you think it is? We're going to explain in detail the importance of effective internal control procedures in a business for cash, that is your receipts and payments, for inventory, for receivables, and for payables. We're also going to identify 3 examples of internal control procedures for cash, inventory, receivables, and payables. The total points for the project is 150 points. So this is the grading criteria that I'm going to be using to grade. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Okay, so we've got that. We already went over the group project requirements. That is, now we're going to look at we looked at the grading rubric, how much points there are for each of these sections. Let me see. Yes, we went over the grading rubric, how many points per section. So you want to earn as many points as possible. Try to do your best job, put your best effort forward, so that way you can get as many points as possible. Once we are ready to submit, we just upload it and submit it for grading. The internal control project is due on November the 30th. Just keep into consideration that Thursday through Sunday of that week is the Thanksgiving holiday, so we're going to be closed. So please plan accordingly to ensure that all deadlines are met. Okay. So that is where you're going to locate the information for your actual assignment, and then you have your self and peer evaluation group. You're going to download this file in Word. You're going to type it up, and you see it's a Word document. You're going to type it out. your answers, and you're going to submit. Let's say, for example, you are in a group and Mickey Mouse didn't participate or did very minimal work. That's where you have the opportunity to notate any things you were happy or unhappy about in working with this group. Okay, so that is what's going to go down on weeks 13 and 14. Now let me go back over here to weeks 13 and 14, the module overview. If you look down here, you have some additional resources or some videos that are going to provide you with some additional guidance. For example, this one is where to write your notes in your slides. If you don't understand where the notes need to go, this video will help you with that. We've got a PowerPoint tutorial using APA format. That video should give you some information. And then this one is how do you add narration to a PowerPoint. That is also available for your review. Okay. So just make sure that early on week number 13, when you begin, let me see, so week 13, let me see, during week 13, when you begin working on this project, please make sure that you do establish communication with your group members immediately. That way you can get hands-on as quickly as possible. Okay. So that is basically all of the information. Make sure that you utilize other sources from online, that you cite all of the information, that you make your presentation dynamic, that you conduct enough research to satisfy each of the stated requirements. Okay. Make sure that your research is thorough, that you reviewed it, the citations are included, that the information that you are presenting makes sense. Okay. So the project weeks 13 and 14, then during week 15, I'll probably work on grading your projects, okay, if not sooner. Okay? I will try to get that out as soon as possible. Okay, so all of the information is provided in the folder that I created. You come here and you find additional resources that you may want to use. Okay, so that is what is happening with the group project. Everything you need are here. In the week 13 to 14 content folder, you've got your internal controls information from your ebook. You've got the section where you're going to be submitting yourself for the actual project. And then you have the self and peer evaluation. That is where you evaluate yourself and your peers. Okay. And all of that, both the presentation and the peer evaluations, are due on November 30th, 2025. Okay. So, like I stated when I started the lecture, please make sure that you read the assignment instructions carefully. If you have any questions or concerns at any point in time, please make sure that you get with me. That way I can clarify your concerns and you can begin working on your project. Okay, so that is basically it for this lecture. I want to make sure that you understand what needs to be covered. Once I put everybody into groups, I will make that information available to you. That way you can start reaching out to your peers. Okay, so if you have questions or concerns, don't hesitate to contact me or stop by during my office hour. I wish you a great rest of your week, and until next time, bye bye.